Hi, I'm Chris, and this is Miriam. We're from Keto Chow. Today we wanted to talk to you about how to get the biggest results, the most return on your investment when you're doing a ketogenic diet. What things make the biggest impact? So we have a friend that likes to talk about, he talks about the shortest staves. That's a kind of a weird term. If you have a barrel, the amount of water that you can put into a barrel is determined by the shortest piece of wood. Those are called staves. Who knew? So if you are working on some of the other pieces of wood, but you don't work on the ones that's the shortest, you're not going to increase the capacity of that barrel to hold any water. Similarly, when you're on a ketogenic diet, when you're changing your lifestyle, it's important to focus on the things that are going to cause the biggest impact and then work from there towards the other things. To put this in a different term, if you're ever trying to reduce your debt, they have a thing called the snowball or the roll down principle, where you look for the smallest debt that has the highest interest, pay that off first, and then take the amount of money that you were paying on that debt and apply it to the next smallest, and then the next smallest, and the next smallest. And if you do this, you'll be applying those monthly payments of the smaller debts towards the bigger stuff, and you'll be able to really quickly pay off debt. Well, the same thing works with your health. Look for the things that will cause the biggest impact on your health, and don't worry too much about the other stuff until those become relevant. Now, where this comes into a ketogenic diet is a lot of people will talk about clean keto and dirty keto, and what do those actually mean? So when you're talking about, so people usually, okay, dirty is kind of a pejorative term. It's like it's bad, right? If you're doing dirty keto, you're not doing it right. That's not keto.
Keto police.
The keto police. But different people have different things that are their shortest stave, their smallest piece of wood that's holding them back and limiting their success on a ketogenic diet. Now, for most people, the thing that's going to be the most important is getting their insulin down. Because if you have hyperinsulinemia, where your insulin levels are too high, nothing else is going to matter. You won't be able to access stored fat to lose weight. You won't be able to get rid of a lot of your chronic diseases. Insulin is the big, huge thing that you got to take care of. So if you're doing a ketogenic diet that for some people they might consider dirty, so maybe that's drinking diet soda, maybe that's eating keto treats, maybe that's having fruit on occasion. Whatever they are classifying as dirty keto, maybe for them, it wouldn't work. But maybe for you it does. And the important thing is to find out what are your limiting factors. And well, like I said, when you're first starting off keto, almost guaranteed your limiting factor is going to be insulin. So keeping your carbohydrates low. You probably don't need to worry about eating too much protein. In fact, you're probably not getting enough. But getting your carbohydrates low so that you can start accessing stored fat. And from there, that's when you might want to start looking at improving food quality. So some people have this mindset that in order to do a ketogenic diet, you have to have grass-fed, organic, GMO-free, panda massaged, just $50 a pound, whatever. Maybe that could be important later on. But especially when you're starting off, that's not your limiting factor. That's not where you're getting the highest return on investment. And when people are a lot of times talking about grass-fed beef or grass-fed butter, how do you feed butter grass? I don't know. I just don't know how you feed grass to butter. But when we're talking about GMO free and all this other stuff, those things can be important to you. Maybe that's for an ideological reason, that you want to avoid grain or cattle feed operations. Or maybe you want to avoid genetically modified organisms. You don't know what they are, but you think that it's important. That's okay. But don't feel like you can't do a ketogenic diet because you maybe can't afford those. Our friend, the one who does the analogy about the staves, Dr. Peter Ballerstedt. Good luck spelling that. If you look for him on Twitter, he's at grass-based. I think on Facebook he's grass-based health. Easiest way to find him is on Twitter. But he talks a lot about, is grass-fed beef important? Well, the metabolic difference, and we're talking about how it affects the human body, the metabolic difference of grass-fed versus conventional fed, it's hardly indistinguishable. You're going to be very hard-pressed to see any health gains from going that route. Now, maybe you can argue that it's better for the environment, it's more sustainable. But if we're talking about your health and we're talking about your ability to overcome the metabolic diseases that you are facing, don't feel like you have to do grass-fed. And organic, I mean, that's an entirely different conversation altogether. Organic doesn't necessarily mean that it's even has more nutrients. In fact, often it doesn't. And I know people will argue that, but organic just has to do with the way that it's raised. It doesn't have to do with the amount of nutrients that are in it. So you don't have to have organic, GMO, grass-fed everything.
Non-GMO.
Non-GMO, yeah. If you feel like you like the taste of those things better and you prefer them, by all means, that's great. Don't feel like you can't have them. But also don't feel like it's a requirement. And don't tell people who are doing a ketogenic diet that maybe can't afford grass-fed stuff and that aren't in the same part of their journey as you are, that they have to do it this particular way because what they're eating is not keto. Because, once again, if you're just starting off a ketogenic diet, for instance, my children, a lot of them don't do keto diets. They just don't eat sugar because we don't buy it for them. And quite frankly, that's probably enough for other people who've messed up their metabolism for decades. Doing a very strict ketogenic diet, sometimes that's not even enough. You have to do fasting and you have to do strict carnivore or other things like that. So be cognizant of what works for you, but don't feel like you have the right to tell people that what they're doing isn't how to do keto. You might want to offer suggestions. You might want to offer coaching to them and say, hey, you know what? Maybe eating that particular brand of bar, you might not want to do that. I mean, I know for me personally, I went through we found the Russell Stover sugar-free candies when we were first doing keto. We were so happy because they're sugar-free. Little did we know, they've got maltitol in them, and oh boy. So offering coaching, offering suggestions and advice to people who are on an earlier stage in their keto journey than you are, that's fantastic. Support them. Do what you can to help them. But remember, not everybody does keto the same way. And if people aren't to the stage that you are, maybe they don't need to worry about grass-fed.
They need to focus on their stave.
Their staves, their shortest piece of wood, because they need to increase their health. And so for them, yeah, they might need to do things differently than you do. So Anyway, we get a lot of questions about dirty keto and clean keto and that's not keto and blah, blah, blah. So there is no rule book for keto. What works for one person may not work for another.
So true.
And it is a bit frustrating that things that may work for you at one point may no longer work for you at a different point.
Yeah, that is frustrating.
We talked to a friend today who he started doing keto and was just shedding pounds, and now he's having to do all sorts of stuff like fasting in order to maintain his progress. So, but that's what we wanted to share with you tonight about getting the optimum return from your efforts on keto and finding the things that are most important that'll give you the biggest return and focus on those first.
For your body, not for anybody else's.
Yep. And then once you've nailed the insulin, maybe you can start buying grass-fed Wagyu beef steaks.
And then eating them because they're delicious.
That actually sounds really good. So, but it's not necessary. If you want to do keto with hamburger, with like ground hamburger
Ground beef
and a cast iron stand,
eggs.
you can do that.
Perfect.
So anyway, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, so above my head, if you mouse over it, there will be a link to the version of this on YouTube. You can ask questions there, give us suggestions for other videos. You can tell me I'm full of it. That's fine.
Tell him he's full of it.
We're all at different stages in our keto journey, aren't we? But thank you again for joining us, and we'll catch you again next time.